Ask Aaron. It has been a minute. A lot of things have happened. I'm wearing a shirt to describe some of them. Last week I was gone at a Packer game, and I've also been coaching my son's flag football team, and they are finally the Packers after years of trying. I've been busy. I know you've been busy, but we started our fall kickoff series and we moved back into our normal home at St. Pat's. Lots of stuff going on in our church, and we are talking about family, how the church should be a family and what that looks like, what that means. We kicked it off with a message entitled "We Are Family." And last week we talked about the goal of the family, or one of the goals of the family, which is to grow. So I've got lots of questions to answer. We're going to jump right in, but you can expect a regular Ask Aaron now for the rest of the fall. One of them is going to be on location, so stay tuned. Anyway, we're doing the same as we were before the little break there. These are my views, not the church's. I hope they agree. And if you've got any questions, comments, or concerns, throw them in the boxes underneath, and I'd be happy to answer those and talk with you about them, all right? Here we go. First question, are secrets healthy in a family? And the answer is yes and no. Let me explain. Yes, I think secrets are healthy in the sense that all marriages should have things that are sacred, that are intimate between two people, that a husband and a wife share, and that even the kids don't know. Stuff that is special and unique to only the husband and the wife. And there are certain instances in which, a parent-child secret is okay as well, as long as it's done in a spirit of trying to create a special, intimate bond, and not in a spirit of trying to keep something from someone else, right? There can be little things that you and your son or you and your daughter have that are special and secret and unique, and that's just because they're special in a way to you, but not in a way that degrades the other one, okay? But usually it's just between a husband and a wife, and those kinds of secrets are very important in a marriage. But the answer is also no, in the sense that most of the time when there are secrets in a family, it's about skeletons in the closet and things that are done or have been done, things that have happened, and you're trying to keep somebody from looking bad or being embarrassed or whatever, and that creates an inauthenticity, it creates dishonesty, and in all of those situations, secrets are bad. I believe always in transparency and authenticity, that you should be an open book in most ways, especially to your family. Those are the people who should know you and love you the most, and no matter what, and through all of your junk. And as you open up your life to them, they can and should be an impetus, a driving force for change and for maturing and for getting better in life. And so I hope that's the case. I know it's not always the case. There are legal situations where, things are obviously different, but in a normal family situation, yes, husbands and wives should have secrets, the intimate kind, the special kind. And no, families shouldn't keep secrets because they can be dangerous and they can divide a family. All right. Next question. Is having too many off-limits areas healthy? For instance, things that you don't talk about with your family or your friends because, we just don't talk about that. That's off-limits. And I think the answer is yes. There is a danger to having too many things that are off limits, especially because faith is one of those things that always winds up becoming off limits, right? Because we don't talk about that. It brings up division. No, you should be able to try to find a way to talk about it where you're honest and respectful and able to converse without causing the other person to fight with you, and vice versa, right? They should be able to have a respectful conversation with you without having to worry about whether or not a fight's going to break out. I had a very meaningful and difficult, but not in a hard way, just that it was a difficult topic conversation with a pretty close friend in the last couple weeks. And at the end of it, this person thanked me for being respectful, even though they didn't share my opinion, and for having the conversation and for being open and honest. And it was just a really rewarding experience to know that, yeah, this is still possible in 2021. We can still have conversations where we disagree about things, but we hear the other person out and we're able to defend our beliefs without offending others. And it was just really good. So I think having too many off limits things is just an excuse to not talk about stuff and to not be respectful of one another. There is always a way to be respectful even when you disagree. Okay? Next question. Is it okay to put a false act of happiness in play in order to encourage someone or to get someone to accept an invitation to come to church? This is based on the fact that last week I talked about the goal of the church is to grow, that healthy things grow, and Jesus gave us a commission to go out and to make disciples and grow the church. And so this person is asking, is it okay to put out there a false act of happiness, sort of a lie in a way of, oh, I'm so happy and this is so great and life is so amazing because I go to church. You should come. Is that okay? And the answer is no. Like, be honest with people, be transparent with people, tell people, hey, my life sometimes really stinks. And sometimes I go to church and I don't feel like I got anything out of it, but more times than not, I go because I'm being obedient, because I want to worship, because I know the value in community. And so I go, and if you had a really great Sunday, tell them about your really great Sunday. And if you had a really cruddy week, tell them about your really cruddy week and tell them why you think it's important that you should still go to church and you should still be a part of a community of faith. Be honest with people, because you don't know whether or not that person is looking for a reason to go to church or a reason to not go to church, right? And your fakeness might be the reason they used to not go, and your authenticity about your cruddy week might be the reason they go, yeah, if that person can come into this establishment and be that way and still want to go to their church on Sunday, I think that's a church I should check out. I think this is a religion I need to look at. I think this is a reason for me to go. And so you don't ever want to be the reason somebody decides not to go to church, and you want to be the reason that people hear about the opportunity to go to your church, but hopefully the thing that drives them to go is their own desire to find a relationship with God. We had this discussion a lot with youth group. Free pizza and showing movies every week is not a growth strategy. It's a way to get kids in the door, but they're not going to stay if you don't keep bringing free pizza and showing movies. And that's not a youth group, that's a party. So we want to make church the same way, right? Like, church needs to be real and people need to understand what they're getting into when they show up. Which brings me to my next question. Is growth a goal or a result of your church? I think it's both. Let me explain. It's a goal of the church because Jesus gives a very obvious command. Go and make disciples and baptize them and bring them into the community. The early church in the book of Acts, it says that the church was growing and it was multiplying daily, that as the disciples went out and preached, the people were coming to faith and the number of the church was growing daily. So it is obviously a goal of the church, but it is also a result of the church, because as people go to the church and experience Christ and experience the relationships and experience the community, they will naturally go out and be excited about it. Again, with my shirt, right? Like, people love the Green Bay Packers. Why? Because there are family traditions, and there are exciting games, and there are memories that people are making, and there's all these different reasons that people love going to football and being a part of Packer fans, and there's a 40-year waiting list and all these different kinds of things, right? The night I was there were 77,000 people there. And I said to my brother, wouldn't this be amazing if they were all here for a worship service? And yeah, it would be awesome if that kind of excitement surrounded people's relationship with Jesus. And I think in a healthy church, it does, not on that scale, and I wish it was on that scale, but people leave the building excited about what's happening inside the building and excited about their relationship with Jesus and their relationship with their fellow church attenders. And they go out, and it's just this natural result that people are brought in. I'm going to sneeze. I did. That people are brought in because of the excitement and the energy and the passion that the people coming out of the church have. And so it is both the goal of the church to grow, and it is the result of a good church, a healthy church, that it grows. Now, let me state this very clearly. The goal of the church is to grow in size, but only as you grow in maturity. You don't need a church with every seat filled of people who don't know Jesus, who don't want to know Jesus, but are there because it's exciting and there's a light show and there's a smoke machine. And I'm not against those things. I mean, our church is not going to have them, but I did work at a church once that did. And I don't think they're like evil things. What they are is a tool, and you have to use your tools to justify the end. And that is, you want people to know Jesus and then grow in their relationship with Jesus. So first you want them to know Jesus, and then you want them to grow. Every person who is a regular attender of your church should be on a growth plane, right? They should be growing. They should be moving and getting closer towards the ultimate person that God created them to be. And that is looking more and more like Jesus. And so if people are coming into your church, but they're not growing, that is unhealthy growth. And on some levels, the bigger a church gets, the harder that becomes, because people can walk in and they can walk out and they can be unnoticed. And so churches have to be really careful to not grow faster than their health allows them to. And as your church grows, you need to develop strategies and plans to continue to help people grow. And there does come a point, in my opinion, when a church just gets to a size where it's no longer capable for, a pastor or a certain number of pastors to shepherd all of those people. And so it's a healthy thing to do to break off sections of that community and say, okay, you go start a church over here and bring in more people there. And you go start a church over here and you bring in more people. Now that's one growth strategy. I know there are others. That's just the one that seems the healthiest and the most like the early church to me. But I'm not speaking out against others, but that's the model that my heart follows and that our church has sort of predicted. We're far off from that, right? Our church is not in a position to think about breaking off other churches yet. But we're very excited about the fact that the people who come into our church are getting to know Jesus in a different way, and that they're growing to be more like him. And I think that should be the goal of every church. Next question. Is it okay to not have some form of joy daily? Is it okay if your day is just kind of blah and you don't have a joy or a win? And this is a difficult question, right? Because there are seasons of life in which people are depressed, people are anxious, people are suffering and struggling, and we get through days. We survive days. Do I think it is sinful for people to not experience joy? No. But I do think that there is an opportunity for us, if we are focused on the truths and the things that matter, that we could experience joy every day. Let me just explain using a little bit of a morbid example. I don't hate funerals. And as a pastor, I have not had to do a super difficult funeral, and I am thankful for that. But I have this outlandish view as far as the world is concerned about funerals, and that is that they should be happy, that they should be celebrations. If we know that the person was a believer, that we should celebrate. And yes, we will miss them, and we should cry, and we should be sad, and we should feel the emotion of their loss and the fact that they're gone away from us for a time. But we should celebrate not only because we will see them again, but because our loved one is experiencing joy and peace and happiness. And so even in the most difficult of times, it is possible to be suffering and struggling and still know in our hearts that there is a reason, and find a little piece of joy in that moment. And in the same way, if we're depressed, if we're struggling, if even we're struggling with like thoughts of self-harm or whatever, there is an opportunity to know that this suffering is temporary, that this suffering was bought and paid for by the blood of Jesus, just like all sin and all suffering, and that one day we will be able to be free of it. And that might bring 30 seconds of respite. That might bring 10 seconds of looking forward and experiencing the joy, or praying and thanking Jesus for the reality of that in your life. But it is an experience of joy. There's also, this idea that you surround yourself with community in times of struggle, in times of depression, in times of anxiety. And it's okay to laugh at a funeral, right? It's okay to be depressed and to watch a funny movie and to experience 5 minutes of laughter. In fact, there's a thing called laughter therapy out there that you can Google and watch movies on. And it's kind of a weird thought, but it's really cool. There are just periods of our day and truths about eternity and our relationship with Jesus that can help us find joy every day. And I think it's important that we try. Is it sinful if we go through an entire day and we were morose and we were depressed? And I don't think so, unless the reasons, the heart of it is sinful. But I think there are opportunities for joy every day, and that we should look for them and try to seize them. Last question I have here is this: should I be unoffendable? I think this is a family question, and it's the one that I'm going to bring up last because this Sunday, tomorrow, I am talking about fighting within a family, infighting, fighting amongst the people in the family, and also fighting with those outside the family. So I would encourage you, tune in tomorrow on our website, watch our message, or show up. St. Pat's School, downtown Hudson, 10 a.m. Anyway, should you be unoffendable? And the answer, again, I love this answer, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that you should be able to listen to people, and they should be able to speak against you, and you should be able to hear their arguments and not be easily offended and break down and get into an argument with them and fight over the littlest things and pick every hill on which to die. No. That's not right. As Christians, as believers, we are supposed to be available to hear all of the arguments against us and then defend our faith. But there is something that should be offensive about our life and for which we should be offended, and that is the gospel, right? The truth about the life, death, and resurrections and the teachings of Jesus. And so you should take offense when someone speaks out against something that you know to be true. Now, how you respond is super important, right? We talked about this, being healthy in our response and being respectful in our response. But yes, you should take offense when someone says there's no such thing as absolute truth, when someone says that you are under the rule of man instead of God, when someone says that you need to abide by a law or something that you know is sinful and goes against Scripture. You do not just take that sitting down, right? You are offended by the fact that sin is being pushed onto you. And so you are offended for the sake of the gospel. You are offended on behalf of the fact that absolute truth does exist, and there are things that are sinful. There are things that we need to stand for. We stand for them respectfully, and we are willing to lay down our lives in order to defend them. And so there are all sorts of things that we may have to sacrifice in order to properly do that. But other than that, we don't just go out and allow ourselves to pick fights or have fights picked with us, okay? Lots of questions. We got through them all. Thank you for giving me a few weeks of a break. We're going to be back on a straight path to Christmas now. I can't believe I'm saying that. Anyway, thank you for watching Ask Aaron. Hope you have a great weekend. Maybe you join us tomorrow, and we'll talk to you next week.